Ladies and gentlemen, we're back in business today on a Sunday of all things. Can you believe that?
No.
What we had to do, at least on my side, on the producer's side, I'm sure on your side on a Sunday to make this happen, it's going to be a good one. So I've got a special treat in the house today. Miss Jaclyn Marfuggi Caprio.
Oh.
And I'm going to go back and try to say that again, with a little bit of Italian flair, Spanish flair. Jaclyn Marfuggi Caprio.
Ooh,
how's that?
Manny.
Good?
Yes.
It worked it. Okay, good.
That was really
I was rolling
good.
my R's before I came to practice that.
Thank you for practicing. I really appreciate it. You slayed it. You killed it. Yeah, all the things.
Hey, let me just dust off my shoulders a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you for having me.
Super pumped. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thanks to Michael Lenoci for that. And,
what up, Lenoci?
Yeah, right? Yeah. We're going to make sure we send this to him specifically so he gets the love and the shout out.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've realized in my homework of you that you've got a very extensive entertainment background. And I always get excited about the entertainers because I think they do such a good job of being in the view of the people on a stage and in presenting and acting or in comedy. But there's also a human being behind them when they're not being that person. And I'm not saying that from a place of they're independent of each other as much as I'm more curious about what makes the entertainer go, right? So before I jump into all that, Jaclyn, tell us a little bit about your journey. And you don't even have to go that deep into it. Go however you want. But I'll be able to pull out and pluck a lot of good things from there that we'll start to have a conversation about.
We love
you
plucking.
better believe
I'm
it.
Italian. We're hairy.
See? Talk to me now. Colombian, I understand. So we're good there.
I mean, it's been a journey for sure. And I feel like timing-wise, this is such a good time to do a podcast about growth and all of that because it's so funny you mentioned Lenoci. We started working together, I feel like it was 13 or 14 years ago.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we were both servers at the Parlor Hollywood.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and that's how we met. And I remember I think he might have just started doing stand-up. I don't even know, but he was just a stand-up fanboy. And I was also had just moved to Hollywood, was trying to act and just not even do stand-up yet. And I feel like we both had these massive dreams and we were so driven and no one really thought we'd ever make it. And so it's kind of cool that now, over a decade later, that I feel like we're the only ones who are actually still doing these things.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but that's not the journey. Anyway.
But I love the 13-year point because I don't think people realize, and by the way, I want you to continue your story.
Yeah.
Just jumping in with the 13-year, over a decade of doing it and making it, right? So I'll hold that thought in my back pocket, but please continue your story there on the journey.
Yeah. I feel like I literally just was born wanting to perform. I mean, there's videos of me just singing and entertaining our backyard with Madonna and Paula Abdul songs. Ever since I was little, I feel like I always just connected with pop stars. And I mean, what little girl doesn't want to dance and sing and do all the things? But that was always a big influence and a driving force in my life. But I wasn't great from the get-go. All of a sudden, I feel like it clicked maybe around age 6 or 7. And I do feel like we moved around a little bit. I've grown up in New Jersey, but we took a leap and moved to LA. Well, it was Palos Verdes.
Right.
So when I was 6, I think we moved to California. So it was a complete, let's start over. I felt like Brenda Walsh in Beverly Hills 90210. I was just this pale.
Just reference 90210.
I mean, yes.
I used to watch that show, by the way.
Oh my God. Obsessed.
Yeah.
I actually met Jenny Garth when I was working. I've had 1,000,001 jobs. I was serving in Hollywood and Jenny Garth, who played Kelly Taylor on 90210. And she was a big inspiration. There was a few female actresses in the 90s that
Shannon Doherty.
I wasn't a Brenda girl. I was a Kelly Taylor girl. But
okay, all right.
I was basically moved from Jersey, pale, brunette, whatever, and thrusted into Palos Verdes, LA, all of that. And that's kind of, I feel like, what has helped me adapt so much because then we had to move back to New Jersey and I was the new kid again and just constantly having to meet people and prove myself and all that. So yeah, I started out singing, dancing, doing all that. And then I was having a tough time, I feel like, in school, like moving back to New Jersey and like making friends. So my mom kind of put me into like theater camp. And like that just changed everything. It opened up my eyes. I like immediately like discovered Broadway and all this stuff. And I remember the first laugh I got was like on stage. I think I was 11 or 12. And we had to do, I don't know why I remember this, but we had to do this weird improv. Like everyone had to talk about like Santa Claus on stage. And I don't know why I did this. I talked about Santa Claus, but how hot he was and how he looked like Tom Cruise in like a 3-piece suit, which also I feel like foreshadows my job now because that's like what I do. I make jokes about hot guys on stage now in Magic Mike Live.
Awesome.
But I remember that first laugh and being like, oh, I love this. This is cool. And just always loved musical theater. I was heavily influenced once I went to high school by Bob Fosse. And I was always into like darker, like sexier, but like funny stuff. So, I mean, my first show I saw on Broadway was Damn Yankees around that time. And it all just kind of evolved. And I always wanted to do it, but I was never like amazing at one thing. I was kind of like a Jackie of all trades.
Yeah. Jackie. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
I
good.
did not make it up. And so that was always kind of hard because I felt like I was never like the best dancer in the room. I was never the best singer in the room. Like I was always the best actress now.
So hold that thought right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in right there because this is an important point.
Yeah.
You said it was hard because you never felt like you were the best. How did you go inside yourself to do it anyway, despite it being hard? And in addition to the self-talk of saying, I don't think I'm the best, which is where a lot of people suffer today, right? They want to do something, but because they don't think they're good enough or they're not capable enough, they don't even do it. So I'm curious how you manufactured that in those moments or what it was that, just pushed you into it.
I think it was just, honestly, it was this is a multiple choice answer.
Yeah.
I think it was having passion for it and loving it. And my parents, I grew up with parents that always, probably to a fault, but I think it all worked out, told us,
I got the chills.
Do what you love. Like, just do what you love. Go for that. They were not the most like practical where it was like, I had to go to college. That was one thing. But it was always do what you love. So I loved performing and I would keep going. And also I grew up with a brother who he's younger, but way more mature. He was a professional athlete, like moved away from home at a very young age to go to the Bollettieri Academy in Florida to play with the Olympic team for soccer. Like, I grew up with someone who constantly was practicing and doing and going. So I think for me, it was like a delusional thing where I was like, if I keep training, if I keep going, I'll get better. So it's like the passion and then the support of do what you love. And then just like I can get better at this. I can make it better. And then getting those little like opportunities, where like I would get cast as like the lead in the school play and I would be like, okay. Okay, we're on to something. But then I was also like, I would try out for bigger and better things. Like I was on a dance team, was not the best dancer on the dance team, but there was something there. And I think I always like trusted it delusionally. I don't know why.
Would you say that's gut feeling, gut instinct?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I don't know where this comes from. I feel like maybe it comes a little bit. My dad has been in sales and he's now the president of like a big, huge Italian cheese company. But we've had like ups and downs with business. And his father actually, I mean, he's done a million things too. My grandpa Benny was in the movie The Godfather. He was a professional wrestler.
You've got a bloodline of entertainment.
I guess, yeah.
Wow.
And he also he trained Anthony Quinn for wrestling and was put into a movie called Requiem for a Heavyweight and kind of just always went with I guess just stuff he was good at, and that kind of transformed into an acting career. Like even though he was wrestling and all of that, it still turned into acting. So I feel like, I don't know, just going after things that you're good at.
Yeah.
And kind of delusionally stepping into fear. That's a huge thing for me.
Keep going on that thought.
If something scares the shit out of me, I kind of force myself to do it.
Yeah.
And believe me, I have failed a bunch of times. Like there are things
process,
where I'm like, why did I say yes to this?
Yeah.
But I feel like I've always learned something,
That's a phenomenal perspective because it's in the actual doing, it's in the action that it becomes your biggest teacher, right? And if you don't do it because you're paralyzed by the fear, well, then you'll never have the evidence of even attempting to do it, therefore getting the feedback loop to understand if you can make progress on it. So in your case, you're like, oh, heck. By the way, I think the fact that your family, your father is a business sales guy, I think that helps a lot and contributes to it because they think differently.
Yeah.
Right? So for you probably watched that in many different ways in addition to your brother. So you had this whole pool of different ways to march forward on your goals and your dreams, which is amazing.
Totally. And I also feel like I have to owe so much to my mom. Like my mom wasn't like a stage mom. And it was so funny because growing up, I wanted that. I wanted that like stage mom that would like push me and like dance mom. And she just like was busy working and also like just wasn't about that life and was just like, if you love it, let's do it. But there was not that like pressure. So it really came from me. Like it was not something that like anyone ever pushed me into. I like fought for this like career and this performance life, which I would never push on anyone ever.
Which made you want it even more because it was your decision.
Totally.
Yeah. It wasn't like my fiance, she tells the story all the time about her mom and dad wanting her to do ballet and dance and all that stuff. And she's like resenting it because of that. So it's the exact point, right?
Yeah.
Not out of any reason for lack of love or anything like that. Just, I think parents just parent the way that they were parent unless they break a chain and they build a new mold and then they've learned. But usually it's historic.
Yeah. I feel like my parents were like breaking the mold.
That's amazing.
To be honest.
That's so good.
Yeah. Which I hope, I don't know. I don't have kids. I give you so much respect for being a parent. I don't know how anyone does it. Like, I don't know.
Trust me, it's been a challenge.
I can barely take care of myself.
Yeah. We're always on the grow, right? That's the thing right there. Right? We're figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I am also like so grateful because I did grow up in Jersey. Like, I feel like there is something about being like Jersey Italian, but my mom isn't Italian. Like, she's Irish, English, German. And so she's like blonde and blue-eyed and beautiful and like always like she modeled and always is just so put together. And there was something in our household, like she would always be like, we have to do maintenance. Like we have to take care of like nails, hair, like how you look, be presentable, like be respectful. That was always a huge thing, which I feel like is so helpful in this career. I like resented it and hated it when I was younger, but it helps me also. So I feel like having the dad who's like a businessman, sales, but then like the grandfather and like other family members that were in entertainment. And then the mom who was like, no, get yourself together. Like, this is how we do it. Like, all of that is what helped push me.
That's amazing.
And put this together.
I cut you off earlier when I asked you that question. So please feel free to continue sharing the story or the evolution there.
The journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, after.
And by the way, sorry, I'm doing it again, and I don't purposely do it.
No.
But I want to give credit to your mother as well because that's incredibly powerful. Because I had the opposite. My mom passed away when I was young, so I didn't even have that. But so I just want to give the acknowledgement to your mother for being a badass on her side too. You had the perfect storm of family that was kind of there, just contributing to you and your whole process, which is beautiful. So
totally
very nice.
And I think it's also like, if I'm perfectly like transparent and honest, like having to like navigate making friends and like doing stuff. And like, I always like wanted to hang out with the cool kids and like was always kind of in that group, but also was with like the dance kids, the theater kids. And I feel like that also was like something that drove me, was wanting to like constantly like prove like, no, I can do this and be successful. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like there's a little bit of that in there.
Sure.
So yeah, in high school, like it's funny because I would have like acting teachers or people like be like, don't go to college and act. Like go to college and get a degree.
Oh, geez. The famous words.
Yeah. And then I went to college and became a theater major. But I mean, the best thing, college, I don't know about you, but it was like the best 4 years. And there was like so many ups and downs. And it was the first time I was on my own. And I also like, yes, I was a theater major, but I tried different things. I was recruitment chair of my sorority. Like I did love having that like aspect of me.
Totally.
And I also danced on the dance team and like was around the athletes because we were like the Laker girls of University of Rhode Island, which isn't saying much. But
at that time, you're a superstar.
At that time, yeah, we were in, what is it, the Sweet 16, or they were like really successful. Like it was right after I think Lamar Odom was there. So like we got to like dance on the court, the basketball games, all of it. But I also like, I mean, I was partying. Like I was just like burning the candles at all the ends. Like I would have to like wake up at like 6 a.m. and go to practice and was probably like
hungover.
Yes. And like it definitely took me a little longer to graduate college. But it was like, I feel like all those experiences definitely like prepared me for this moment. And I hold near and dear, like I still talk to all the people I did shows with at theater and the girls in my sororities. I freaking love. You know what's so crazy? I keep seeing 222. Like we started it and it was at 22 seconds. Okay, 222. 22 is my lucky number.
Come on now.
And 222 means you're like so in line with stuff. So I'm sorry. I just noticed the clock. If you're just listening, I saw that.
You guys can't see the clock.
Yeah.
We can see the clock
we can
here.
See it.
But she's referencing something pretty awesome there, which that's great. That makes me feel that we're doing the right duty, right? You know, I always tell people when you're in your gift, like fully in your gift, you know, it's almost like time doesn't exist, right? But the alignment that comes along with that, there's no unease. Like there's just none because you're doing the thing that you're meant to do.
And honestly, we could like go off on a tangent about that. Like,
please. I
literally feel like working for over a decade, working for probably like 20 years on all of this, you're basically working to like feel like you're in an alignment and to like feel like it's not like work anymore. And I was talking to one of the dancers on our show actually yesterday about this, that when we go on stage and we're not like pushing and trying so hard and white knuckling everything and we're just like doing it, that's like when the best stuff happens. But I feel like the years and years of preparation like gets us to that point to feel finally like in line and be like, yeah, no, this is what I'm doing, to let it like free flow.
There's a confidence, there's an assurance, there's like, I've been here before, there's the wisdom of the practicing that goes through that. You've actually been on stages, you've made the mistakes.
Oh my God.
So like now it all catches up to you.
Yeah.
And you're just executing and you're just good, right?
You're good. I mean, believe me, there's weird nights that happened and we'll get into that. But I do find like anytime like I'm asked to do something and I'm like, oh, I can't do that. That scares me. Like no way. I have to remind myself, I force myself to think about the last thing that scared me. And like, no, you've done this. Like you're on the next level now. Like the building blocks are there. And it's so funny. I have a very close friend. His name is Griffin Moore. And he, I met over 20 years ago. And now he works for the Whiskey Lifestyle brand. He does a ton of stuff with Whiskey Brooklyn. He also works for SNL now. And we call him Hove because he's like the Jay-Z in our life. He loves Jay-Z. And he is someone, I call him Coach Hove. And for 20 years, like it's just, he talks in like inspirational quotes. It's like insane.
That's fantastic.
And he, I remember I was living on Crescent Heights in Hollywood. And Crescent Heights, if you don't know, is like, I was living right off of like Sunset Boulevard, Crescent Heights. There's the Chateau Marmont right there.
Where that is.
Yeah, right. It's kind of in the middle of everything. Like the hills are right there. Like, and the coolest thing is where I was living, like I could walk to the Laugh Factory. I could walk, it's a far walk, but to the Hollywood Improv, and I could walk to the Comedy Store. So it was like the epicenter for me of like comedy. And I started out as a cocktail server at the Laugh Factory before I ever started doing stand-up. That's another story. Anyway, so you can picture where we're at. We're in the middle of everything in LA. And one night we're walking back and I remember being upset. I think he was staying at the Chateau Marmont and he was like walking me back to my place. And there's all these like sidewalk, like blocks, kind of like squares, like leading back to my apartment. And I'm sure we had been drinking, whatever. But it was probably like 10 years ago. And I was like upset about something career-wise and not being far enough along. And he like started looking at the sidewalk and he was like, this is where you started. This block is like you moving to LA, like this block. And like I would walk up and down those blocks like every single day because I lived there for 12 years at that apartment.
And it was a reminder every time.
And it's like every little step, you know, and it's like a building block. Obviously, this is all pretty obvious stuff, but it's like stuff like that. Like I'm very like visual and I have to like see it.
Agreed.
And that's kind of how it is like you don't realize it at the time, but like everything you're doing is like building up to that next moment.
Oh, it's so good. I got the chills again. I promise. You talk about something I think everybody deals with.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're not where they want to be, they're not far enough along, they're comparing themselves to, who they want to become overall.
Yeah.
And forget about what they've done behind, assuming you've done work, right? You've actually made some progress. You don't really have the right to it if you're just asking for it but not doing anything, right? And that's obviously not the case.
And believe me, like in 2023, like there's people who just innately have like a talent or something, and there's TikTok and it makes them blow up in a year, which is great. Like I'm so happy for that. Or like the Nepo babies who literally are born into stuff. We deal with that all the time, like in LA and Hollywood, which everyone has their own journey.
Yeah.
But
it's not the norm. It's not the norm. Most people are working for it, earning it, right? So to that point, how are you, is that the method that you're continually using in order to strengthen that perspective of yours where it's like, hey, I've come a long way. Look, hey, I'm doing Magic Mike. Hey, I'm at the Comedy Store. Hey, I'm at the Improv. Hey, I'm touring with these successful comedians. Hey, I co-host with Michael Yo. Hey, I do all these like very front public facing things. And you're like, shit, I'm doing good. Is there a process in your mind or something else that you could share with the audience that would orient them to maintaining a good outlook in the process, right? Because it's so easy to think that I'm not further along, and for that, and by the way, I know this because I felt it, like, and then I shut down. I'm like, why am I doing this? Because you can't see it, right? It's all happening underneath you, like you said. It's building, it's compounding, and it's growing, and then pop.
Yeah.
I wonder what you would have to say about maybe something that helps you in that, in addition to what you said about the blocks.
Totally. I mean, it took me a long time to get here and to have this perspective on it. And if you talked to me a year ago, I was going through like a really tough time. And I was working for Hollywire, which was an entertainment news network. And that was outside of my toolbox, but like it was really cool. It forced me, like I would have to write segments. It forced me to learn how to like interview celebrities and like just, it was a totally different thing. But I was doing that. And I was feeling like stand up, like it was fine, but like I was just doing the same kind of shows. And acting wise, I had a few like really big almosts and close calls for like big TV shows where like you would get your hopes up, you would be pinned for something, which is like basically it's between you and like one other person.
Sure.
And then like nothing would come through. I think right around this time was starting to audition for Magic Mike Live. Hadn't like heard anything yet. So like it was just feeling like I was just hitting all these walls. And I also had gotten married like and was feeling like maybe this is time to like throw in the towel and like move back to New Jersey and like pivot. Like I'd been in LA for 15 years. Like I was just feeling like something's not working and I'm crying a lot every day. And I can't see the light. But I don't know why there was like something in me that like kept going. And it's so funny because Molly Shannon actually talks about this in her book where right before she booked SNL, she was like, I'm done. Done. And literally, I think it was like 2 days before I booked Magic Mike Live, I literally walked in to my living room and told my husband, like I had just cried through an entire birthday dinner that we had at Sunset Tower. And I was like, I'm done. I want to move to the East Coast. Like, I can't do this anymore. Wherever you want to go. Like, I'll go. Like, let's make this about you right now. Like, I think I need like a change. And it wasn't that I wanted to like quit the entertainment industry. There was just something in me that knew I needed a change. You know, I'd been in Hollywood for 15 years and I couldn't do it. And then got the call the next day for Magic Mike Live. Wow. And then I had booked it and it was like, okay, actually, this is not going to be about you at all, honey, for the next year at least. We're going to move to Vegas. And it like turned my world upside down. But I feel like everything I've done up until that point prepared me for this role, which I get to do everything I'm good at.
Wow. Wow.
That's one part. But the question you asked was...
By the way, I'm all along for the ride. No. I mean... Again, I always remind people that are on the show. Yeah. There's no. I can bring you back to the question. The question, if you want it.
Yes, please, because I know there's something I want to say.
No, but you were sharing some great stuff. The question was, in that you answered it because you shared a very vulnerable side of you, and you were willing to say, hey, it was a challenge for me, and like I was willing to quit, which I guess was set up by the fact that I was saying, hey, how do you deal with, that part of it in terms of helping the audience be able to not get upset about the fact that they're not where they want to be, right? Type of thing. But I think you did a great job. So unless you want to expand on that, then that's all up to you. But I think it was a great answer.
Because I feel like there's something that's like so helpful there that's like right in front of our faces.
Bring it. By the way, I'm going to touch back on some stuff you said there too. So, but bring your answer. I can't wait to hear it.
So my mom would always say, like, run your own race. Like, you're a racehorse. Like, you need blinders on. And she used to get that. Her favorite show was Marlo Thomas, That Girl. And I guess Marlo Thomas played an actress on the show, and her dad on the show always like said that to her. And I would always be like, Mom, no. Because it's so hard when you're in an industry, whether you're a female comic or a female actress, singer, dancer, whatever, or male, to not look at everyone else running the race. Yep. But until you like learn that and you keep those blinders on, and my mom would also say, to thine own self be true, which I'd be like, shut up. That's so annoying. But it's so true. And something that I've really had to learn through doing stand-up, finding your own voice, like figuring out, having podcasts, having a brand, like doing all that is just lean into whatever makes you and lean into everything that makes you different from everyone else. And it's so hard when your friends are becoming successful or they're getting TV shows and they're getting, projects, films, whatever, to be like, no, maybe I should be doing that, and believe me, I've tried that. And you go down that avenue and you're like, oh, that's not going to work for me because I'm not them.
Right.
So literally running your own race and just having those blinders on, and obviously like check in and also supporting other people because I feel like paying it forward and like being a big cheerleader for someone else, like your time is going to come if you just keep working and you just keep going for it. And then inner child work, which I know sounds like very woo-woo, and it's something that I'm
obsessed with it.
Really?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
All day long.
So it's something I've just started leaning into, and it's so obvious to me is I literally before shows, I'll pull out like 4 or 5 pictures of myself when I was like 7, 8, 9, when all of this started happening, where I like really started blossoming and like figuring out like, oh, I really love and performing and doing all this. Looking at those pictures and just looking at that little girl's face and being like, okay, you would be proud, Jaclyn. Like, this is where you wanted to be. So let's go out there and be that little girl and let her fucking shine. I don't know if I can.
Of course you
can.
Okay.
Like stuff like that. Like when I'm feeling off, when I'm feeling like I'm like mentally like worrying about like, I don't know, like a trip I'm trying to plan or like something that happened or like drama. Like when you're like a little off, I feel like looking at the pictures of like me younger helps.
Sure does.
Or like thinking, like yesterday, we had to do 3 shows. Now I share the role with Chelsea Phillips-Reed. She's the other female MC because right now we're doing 11 shows a week.
Wow.
Physically,
that's a lot.
It's a 90-minute show. We have 30 pages of dialogue. There's dancing. It's energy. Like once I leave that dressing room, I am not coming back to that dressing room until the show's over.
Right.
We are keeping that train going. And everyone's keeping the train going. Like, I don't want to for a second not say, like, the crew, the male dancers, like, everyone, the ushers, the cleaning, like, everyone. Like, yes. But it's something where if you're mentally not, like, in it to win it and, like, an athlete and focused, it's really hard. And sometimes, like, there are words coming out of my mouth and I am thinking about, like, something that happened, like, earlier in the day and I have to, like, check myself. So just to even, like, think of, like, inner child or have like little tricks that we do. Like that's really helpful.
Yeah, because it's bringing you to a place of joy, and joy is almost like in the now.
Yeah.
Right? Just a simple memory, the image in the memory triggers you to get off of what you're focusing on, shift the focus to that moment, and then it almost is like a trigger point. And the trigger is what sets you off to go out and operate in that fashion.
Totally.
And if you practice that enough, you start realizing that that's a recipe for you in order to be in that peak performance state. Right? Versus the opposite of like, oh, what's going wrong? What's the worry? What's the concern? Right? So it's very good.
And it's really hard because I feel like also like with what we do, and this can translate, I think, into being an athlete, being a businessman, like any job where you have to show up and be your best self, even being a mom,
Yeah.
you really have to be selfish
Mm.
and figure out what works for you to perform at that level.
Mhm.
And that's something I've always had a hard time with. I feel like for years I was a people pleaser. I was very codependent in relationships with friends. And I would always like put everyone first, and then my tank would be completely empty for myself. And that's something I'm just realizing.
Yeah.
And you like have to protect your time. And you also just have to figure out what works for you to show up and be the best self.
Mhm.
So for me, I have to look at those pictures. For me, I have to get to work an hour before everyone else because I have to go into that rehearsal room and I have to do my dance warm up. I have to play a song that I can just like jump around and box and fist pump and like lose my mind to. I have to play the song that I have to dance to in the show. I have to do those things. And granted, all of this is inside me. So if I don't get to do it because of time or something comes up, it's okay.
Right.
And I also like every day I say the lines. I say all my lines for the show, which I don't need to do.
Mhm.
But Kobe Bryant, and I don't know the exact quote, said doing the simple things every single day
Yep.
that makes you great. And we love his family also.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
big fans of Magic
Yeah,
Mike Live,
yeah.
and I love his sisters. So shout out to them because
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
come to the show a million times and they're
yeah.
huge supporters. It's like the simple things that for me, I just know if I'm doing all this, I can then let go and just like be.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's also something like I've really had to learn recently
Sure.
because
I'm glad you open up that direction because I think it's on a lot of people's minds and hearts. And I'm
Mhm.
going to roll that back a little bit to what you said about watching all of your other friends make it in air quotes, quotations.
yeah.
And you realizing that that's just who they were versus you're doing your thing. In the choice of looking at your friends go and make it, were they making it because they were in fact in their gift, like you were mentioning, or were they making it because they got lucky or it was some sort of an accident and you were able to, because then in that could create another juxtaposition in the situation where now you're pissed because you're like, I know that girl. That's not who she is, but she still made it and she's got all the fame and all the money and all the TV.
Mhm.
And now you're upset because it's like, it's false. But if it was really them and they really got what they deserved because they were really, really, really working hard,
Mhm.
that might present a different case for you to make decisions on, right? So what did you learn about in those situations, in those blessings or not, from the friends that got it? Were they earning and deserving of what they got as you saw it
Mhm.
in terms of making it?
That's a really good question. I feel like it's a combo. I've definitely seen friends who worked really hard, who got into the like stand-up game before me, get like earlier success. And they were doing great with the success, but maybe they didn't like exactly deserve it at the time. And I do feel like there is something to be said about kind of like peaking too soon
Mhm.
because then you can't like back it up and you kind of like fizzle out too early.
Okay.
But I feel like anyone that I know that got the success, like they deserve it.
Okay.
Like it wasn't
Good.
like frustrating. Some people personality wise are like kind of like the way they might have like cut other people out or didn't go about it the right way. Like it's like, oh man, that wasn't one of the good ones.
Sure,
you know,
sure.
like that definitely exists.
yeah,
I'm not going to be like,
yeah.
everything is rainbows and glitter and unicorns and everyone's so nice and great.
And then you make it and then it's like,
Yeah, like believe me. And I've had situations where like sometimes I like there would be ensemble shows or there would be a TV show that like I thought like, oh, I should be asked to do that, where like a bunch of comedian friends were asked to do it, but like I wasn't. That yeah, but I know that. I keep that back there. I know that.
sure.
But it wasn't my time. Like there is something that have you ever seen the movie Sliding Doors? Okay. Don't blame me. It's like a 90s Gwyneth Paltrow movie. And basically the premise is like she plays like two versions of herself.
Okay.
And she makes a train in one version and she doesn't in the
Okay.
other. So it's like the sliding
Sure,
doors
sure.
of the train and your life goes one way or the
Interesting.
other.
Yeah.
So even like when I was driving here, so originally it said I was going to be early and then I hit a few red lights. I got behind a bus.
Of course.
And I always feel like if you're on time, you're 5 minutes late.
Mhm.
So I texted Manny and I was like, it says I'm going to be here at 2:01. I'm so sorry. And you were like, take your time. But like, I hate that. But in that moment to not like freak out, I had to think of sliding doors. And I'm like, okay, there's a reason why I'm running late. Like there's a reason why I just have to be like, okay, it is what it is. And that sliding doors, when it comes to friend success and people getting what they're supposed to do, that's not my path. That's not my journey. And if I mess with that, that's going to throw everything off. It's like the movie Mr. Destiny. Do you know that movie?
No, but I like the name of it.
Oh my
I
God.
like the name of it.
I
use that word a lot.
Yes. And
I use the word destiny all the time.
Oh my God. And it's just kind of like, it's so hard because I feel like we want things and we white knuckle stuff, but you kind of just, if you work hard and you trust your instincts and know that like you're going to fail, you got to keep going. Everything happens for a reason, that like eventually like your journey, your destiny, all that. I know that sounds woo-woo. You will get there. But it is really hard. I'll be totally honest, to be authentically so happy for all your friends that are like getting everything you wanted and you haven't gotten it yet. Like that. Yeah. Man,
it's disturbing.
It's so hard sometimes, or even like not even just with friends or like family. Like if someone's getting married or getting engaged or having kids or buying the house, you're like, I want that. But like, that's not for you at that time. And that's really hard. So like everyone listening, give yourself grace because we're all human.
I'm going to jump in on that because it's so true what you just said. And it goes back to what we were talking about just a few minutes ago. It's the inner work. It's the inner child work.
Yeah.
There are elements of life that are absent in your own development. And so part of the quest that I've been on, I realize often that I have envy of other people that have made it, but in no fault to them. That's just a reflection on what's going on inside of me, which is exactly why I'm on the quest and why Always on the Grow exists, because it's in essence a purging of old ways by going back and doing the work to figure out why do I think like this? Why do I act like that at times? And more importantly, catching it in those moments and repositioning it and saying, okay, I know this isn't who I am naturally. This is a conditioning of who I became because of my life that kicked my ass coming up.
Yeah.
And I'm only living through that lens. So I've got to fix this. And I'm actively fixing it. So, okay, so great. Let's look at them and say, great job. Like, you're doing amazing. Like, am I doing what I need to do? Yeah, I'm working.
Oh, totally.
We're grinding. We're hustling, right? Okay, well then they did it differently and they maybe made it because their path is their path. And so I think it's catching that, at least for everybody listening, I have felt and often do feel the same thing, by which I catch it and I'm like, no, this isn't the true Manny. This is the conditioned Manny. And there's a difference there. Yeah. And I go to work on that in that moment. So what you're saying is, it's powerful.
And believe me, it takes a long time to like get there and realize that, like, and doing work, because there are times where exactly I'll see someone, I'll be like, ugh. And I'll be like, whoa, Jaclyn, what's going on with you? Like,
yep. Like, why are you so mad?
That's about me right there, you know? And so I think like with trolls or haters or any of that, like, I feel like there's a lot that's happening with that person. And you're just like, I wish you well.
Yeah.
You know, I hope you find happiness.
That's peace.
Yeah.
It's godly. That's a big point I've been making in my life the last several months, very, very, very specifically. It's like all this other extra stuff that doesn't need to live inside me because of trauma from childhood and more trauma over 30 years. It's like, okay, we're in the rebuilding process and that doesn't need to exist inside because it's disturbance. Like, it's upsetting. Right? For me anyway. And I mean, I'm sure other people feel similar because it's like, I don't want to live like that. Right?
Well, yeah. Sorry. We're going to throw that phone.
I don't know. It's fine. The cows could run in here and start mooing and we'd have some fun with it. You know what I mean? That's how we roll.
I mean,
although we are in Vegas, I don't think there's any cows anywhere.
Are there cows? I'm sure there's a cow somewhere. I'm sure there's some casino that has like a cow theme somewhere. There's
Chick-fil-A's around the corner.
Chick-fil-A's
walks out of there.
They're not open right now, though.
Ah, that's right. That's right. We're the only ones working on Sunday.
Oh no, we have shows tonight.
Yeah.
I'm heading straight to work after this.
Okay, look at you now. See.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I feel like, I mean, I don't know why I'm like thinking about like friends. We were just like talking about friends. I also feel like on the other side of it, like I could not have done this or this journey without like the friends and the people that like lifted me up.
Absolutely.
You know, and we talk about this in the show, like, there's a line we say at the end where it's like, we're all queens, and that means we can adjust one another's crowns without ever letting the world know it was crooked. Find your people and find those people that make you feel good. Like, I feel like that's something I've also had to really start honing in on. like really focus on your energy and the people that are around you and how you feel when they're around you.
Yep.
And those cheerleaders who've also kind of figured out the journey of like keeping the blinders on, I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing. Like keep those people around you and know that like it does take help to be successful.
Yeah.
Like I was just, and this was a really scary moment. I was asked, and I've never done this before, to host like a huge corporate event at MGM Grand.
Yeah.
But granted, I've hosted millions of comedy shows and I am the MC, one of the female MCs of Magic Week Live. And like, I've done so much that like, I got this. But it was really scary. It was a huge event with like thousands and thousands of people for like multiple days. And like leading up to it, they were like, no, you're going to be fine. Like, you're just going to have to go on stage and like just be funny. But like, I didn't have a script. I didn't have anything. And then literally the night before, they like send me the schedule and it's like, okay, you're going to be bringing like One Republic on stage. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like a bigger deal than I thought it was going to be. Like, I'm like, oh my God. And it was for like all these like huge car dealer brands, like all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I know nothing about cars. Like I know from doing stand-up when people say just go on stage and be funny, that's not it.
Right.
Like we write our jokes. We write minutes, hours long of material, like stuff that we work on continuously every day. It's not just go on stage and be funny. So in my head, I'm like, I need to prepare myself because I know it's not going to be me just going on stage and being funny.
Right.
So what did I do? I thought about my friends. I thought about my network. I thought about the people I know. And I called my girl, Sam Grody, whose family owns huge car dealerships. She's also a stand-up comedian. She works at a car dealership. And literally the night before, I was working with her and her fiance on jokes about like, I was like, what do guys or females like that work at a car dealership, what's going to make them laugh? You know? And like, that's what you got to do. Like you got to use your people and you got to like think. And I have her back when like something else comes up and like, you have to ask for help sometimes. I would not, and those were the best jokes.
Yeah.
Were the ones where they're like they felt roasted, and that those guys felt seen.
I loved it.
You know,
Yeah.
and so you have to not be afraid to ask for help.
That's
you know?
powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah, because like I knew I could bring my expertise and my energy and like my timing and like all that stuff, but there are certain things I'm not a car dealer. I don't know. So you have to also like know that it's okay to be like, I need help, because I would have probably bombed.
Yeah.
If I didn't do that extra homework and like realize like, oh, I need to talk about this.
I think it's a good testament to development in general, though, right? I mean, in order to ask for help, you have to be. It's almost the virtue is surrender to the fact that you are human and that you can make mistakes, and you've realized situationally that if you don't ask for help, that it's like a risk reward thing, right? The risk is you don't ask for help and you bomb. Well, you look like an idiot. You feel like an idiot. You're like not living in your true identity because you're like, I'm better than this. The reward is like, I feel bolder because I didn't ask for help and I somehow figured it out type of thing. But that's also like knowing yourself, right?
Yeah.
Which is an important piece. When you were talking a little bit earlier about the getting into peak performance at Magic Mike and setting yourself up for success that way, do you have another formula like that outside of when you're getting ready for a show? Like when you're just living your day-to-day life and you're just Jaclyn and you're married and you're out growing and figuring yourself out in this, what sounds like new version of yourself that you're emerging into, where do you get up and practice, a certain mantra? And I'm just using that as kind of a baseline to work off of.
Yeah.
Or other things, readings, habits, things that you like to do, because you made a perfect point. An athlete, an entertainer, they have to prepare. They have to go in. I played baseball my whole life, right? So I had to go in batting practice before the game, after the game, drills, fundamentals, like nonstop.
Yeah.
It never stopped, right? So, but when I'm not doing that, now you have other elements in life that are also important, right? So do you practice other similar events in your other areas of life?
Yeah. It's so crazy to hear you say like in your real life, because I'm like, what's that?
Yeah. Well, that's exciting to me though, right? Because I think that's where I said earlier when we started, which is like, I feel like there's two different things that are going on. Like, and again, somebody could argue this. I think Will Smith. When I think actor, I think Will Smith. Will Smith is on camera as a different character all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So I see that character. When Will Smith's not on camera, what's Will Smith like?
He's
right?
slapping Chris Rock.
Yeah, there you go.
No, that's terrible. That was terrible.
I think people forgot about that.
I know.
Until
I was
now.
like, whoa, Will
Until
Smith,
now.
don't cancel us.
Oh my gosh.
No,
People are human. They make mistakes.
Exactly.
And
there was a lot going on in his real life
exactly.
that got to that point.
Exactly. So that's like, I'm so fascinated by that and curious by that, where there's other things where it's like, if I'm not on stage showing you the best of me in this moment, because that's my job, I'm here to entertain you. But what's going on behind the curtain, like really type of thing? And I think that's where that's where we start to bridge the gap of authenticity and human connection and establishing that it's more to life than just what we see.
Oh my God. Yeah. And like I grew up loving that kind of stuff, like seeing behind the scenes and like documentaries, biographies, like all of that. So I'm actually like, really excited to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like no one ever asked me about like real life.
Yeah. Oh, I'll live there in real life. We'll talk about some of the other stuff, but I'll live in the real life part for sure.
I feel like my real life has definitely like changed a lot recently since moving to Vegas. I feel like I've had to learn how to slow down and rest. Like for me, I hate naps. I hate going to bed. Like it's so hard.
Why? Like why and how, I guess, are my two next questions on that right there, right? Like
I think I have a really hard time like shutting my brain off.
Okay.
I like hate falling asleep. Like I cannot fall asleep. Like it's just something, and maybe it's because I have to drink Celsius, but it's not that. It's all the thoughts.
Is it some mental health variable, or is it that you're always on and thinking like you're conditioned now to always have to be go, 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 go? Is it that you feel like you need to do something to reach your dream still? Like
it's like all of those things.
All of them, yeah.
I feel like I know I have a friend, Chris Newberg, he's a comic, and he always makes jokes about how females always have the list going. Like he would text me like, what are you doing today? And I would send him like a paragraph, and he's like, okay, just like asked like if you're free at like 2:00. Don't send the list.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I feel like once I like get home from like doing the show, that's when I get to go through the list, because then I can like focus on all the other like real life stuff. Like even today, getting ready for this, I have a big birthday coming up, and my cousin Robert was calling just now because I know the family is like, what are we doing? Like we want to do something, but my schedule's crazy. It's all, so like I was doing my makeup and I'm talking to my husband. I'm like, I'm free this day. I'm not free this day. Like, and then it turned into me just being like, and I'm feeling all this pressure. Like we need to have a baby. And I'm like, he's like, whoa. Like,
where'd that go from?
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like what? It's Sunday morning. Yeah. Like it went from me trying to talk about like a day off to like, we have to have a baby. I'm too old, you know?
Yeah.
And so I feel like all of that is going through my head from the second I wake up to like the second I lay my head on the pillow. So for me, what I have to do is like kind of escape. So like watching like crappy reality TV or like binging shows. Like I get really lost in like a show to the point where like I cry when it's over because I think they're my friends. And like that's something like I love doing.
Yeah.
And also protecting my time. It's so hard for me. I feel like I used to go out all the time. I was a yes person. I was always showing up. I was always at your birthday. I will be there for you. I really have to say no to so many things now. And that's like something that's so hard. I have an inner party girl that I literally just have to stuff down.
Sure.
Like she wants to come out all the time.
Yep.
And it's so hard.
I was at one of my best buds was in a couple nights ago, left last night for his bachelor party, getting married in a couple weeks. And we went out and I was like, man, I just triggered. Like I could go out and party the whole night because that was my former life.
Yeah.
Last night, my lady and I went to the park at Town Square.
Ooh.
And I kid you not, the kids were everywhere. So we had our baby. The kids were all out playing, laughing, jumping. I mean, everything. Yeah. And there was a DJ in the park. And he's playing beats that I love. I'm like, I looked at my lady. I said, I don't know about this music, but I'm ready to go party right now. You know, I was feeling it type of thing. And so I just said, it's something that just triggers me. So I understand what you're saying right there.
So proud of you for not like going out and raging last night.
Yeah. I was raging in the moment. I was getting down in the park, but
you were feeling it.
Yeah.
And that's what's hard also, I think, about like living in Vegas. That's been like a huge lesson for me because like doing stand-up, you can have like a drink before the show. Like I know, like you can go out to dinner and like do your thing and like you're okay. I really don't. I used to like go out and like it became like a social thing before it. And now like I maybe half a glass of wine. Like I really do not like to drink before I go on stage for stand-up. But for Magic Mike, like it's a no tolerance. Like I would never want to do this show having anything in my system. And people don't understand that. People are always like, let's go get drinks before. And I'm like,
oh, no.
No. But we get out so late that also like getting drinks after is really hard too because I need to go home and go to bed. But then I go home and I can't turn it off. And like last night I was up until like 3 a.m., you know? So it's like a very hard struggle of all that. And for me, it's like the simple things. Like tomorrow, Mondays are like my day. Like I try not to book anything on Mondays. Like I co-host the Michael Yo podcast now. Like I try to be like, okay, can we not record on Mondays? Because it's my one day to not put makeup on, not put hair extensions in, not like have to talk to people. It's just, but sometimes I have to do stuff, you know, but that's my one day where I sleep in. And then I've really gotten into doing like heated Pilates, yoga, all that, which is so different for me because when I was in LA, I was teaching plyo jam, which is like a very high intensity plyometrics, dance, choreography, like it's awesome. And I feel like totally trained me for doing Magic Mike Live. And it's and I miss it so much. But I was teaching these like dance workout classes and I was also doing like training me and doing circuit training and lifting like heavy weights, doing all that stuff and just really putting my body through a lot. And now I've had to pivot because on stage I'm putting my body through a lot now where I have to do stuff that's like more therapeutic.
To support it, Otherwise, it's overkill. Yeah.
So like for me, a treat is getting, which sounds so annoying. I can't believe I'm even saying this. It's a treat for me to get to do hot Pilates. Like that's awful. I can't believe I just said it, but it's true.
Yeah. It's a form
really
of self-care.
Yeah.
You have to have it.
And we also, it was funny, my husband, we were at church together and he noticed like my leg was like moving the whole time. And like he's gotten really into like going to church here and being with the community and like helping out at like soup kitchens and like doing all that stuff. He's a goddamn saint. But I finally like woke up early enough on a Sunday to go with him and he was like, you couldn't focus the whole time we were there. So he took me to this thing. It's a labyrinth. Have you ever heard of it?
I'm not.
So labyrinth, and it helped people like me whose minds are always like racing and like need to constantly be moving. It takes about 20 minutes and it's kind of like you walk. It's not a maze because like you can see everything. Yeah, in Vegas. Yes. It's like, I'll send it to you. There's one in Summerlin and you like walk in this whole thing. And at first you're like thinking about all the stuff and then it's basically your body's moving, but you can like pray, you can be grateful for stuff, or you could just like go through the list. And it takes you like 20 to 25 minutes to walk it. And by the end of it, you're like, oh, weird. Like I kind of touched on mentally all the things that like I had going on up here. And then you just get to like sit and I love olive trees and there's olive trees around it and you're outside and it just feels very...
So it's like an active meditation.
Exactly.
You're centering yourself.
Yes, because I just have a really hard time like sitting here and talking. Obviously, we've been on like a million tangents.
Yeah.
Like
No, by the way.
My brain
By the way, you've been saying so many amazing things. I am loving this, by the way.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So that goes back to that perspective thing. We always have a very biased perspective of how we see things, and we think that we're doing something the way that. But I'm over here like, this is fantastic, right? Like your energy's amazing, your answers are fantastic, you're diverse in how you're answering questions, and it's fun. Like it's good quality. Yeah. It's not just good quality, but it's also entertaining as well. So it's like you are living in that purpose of yours. I think it's fantastic, but by no means think you're going in different directions. No, that's not it. That's not it at all. So,
and there is something I try to do every single morning. And I had, when I was getting like fit for the wedding, I had a woman, Eliza Gold. She's an amazing nutritionist. She's also just like stunning and in insane shape and the sweetest person. She was like, hey, as like a gift for you, I want to like kind of coach you and be like your nutritionist, like leading up to the wedding because it was a tough time. We got engaged during the pandemic. We planned a wedding that was taking place across the country in under a year. Like it was, everything was so uncertain. I remember us being like, so like, are we going to have a dance floor? Are we not? There were so many like bans on stuff. Like there was all, and I know this is all champagne problems. Yeah. Believe me. I know we were going through a pandemic and like people died. Yeah. But we were planning a wedding. Sure. We were trying to do it.
Personal world, yeah.
We were trying to do it because we were so grateful, to be honest, that we both still had our parents. And amazing. We were like, we want to celebrate this with our families while they're still here. And we felt so lucky that that's why we wanted to bring the families together. So that's kind of why because I never dreamed of like a big wedding, like all that. I was always, I feel like at a young age, just career focused and wanting to be a performer, that like, that's all I cared about. So anyway, Eliza was like, let's get you fit. Like, So she taught me this thing. She was like, I want you to do this every morning. And it's something I still do. I did it this morning where you just sit up and you like plant your feet on the ground and you look over your right shoulder and you think about like 5 things that like you just don't want to deal with or like stuff that you're like, we're not going there mentally today. And you like take 5 very deep breaths in. So like no more fear, no more self-doubt, like just whatever it is. And you bring it in and you let it out. And then I look over my left shoulder and I'm like, I'm the main character. I'm fucking confident. Like I'm a badass bitch. Like you breathe that out and then you breathe it in the center and you're just like, I'm grateful for, and you do the 5 breaths of what you're grateful for the day. And that's kind of just how you start your day. And it's so hard for someone like me that's like, I gotta go do this. But like, you gotta force yourself to do it every morning. And that really helps for me to center me and helps me focus on like what I need to do for the day and the energy I want to like bring into the day.
What changed for you to start incorporating this into your life? Like, was there a reveal, or was your husband like, hey, you need to calm down? Like sometimes it could be that, sometimes it could be like, something happens in life where you're just like, well, I really kind of overshot that one. Maybe I should take a day, just like a day off and break. And is there something that happened in your life that made you want to start exploring this more? Or was it more just like, hey, this is where your life has come to now and you're realizing this is important and I should do this?
Honestly, I feel like this time last year, I was drinking more and I was crying a lot. I was also doing a million things. Like I was filming for Hollywire. I was teaching Plyo Jam classes. I was doing stand-up at night. Like I was working events. I was doing whatever I could to like make extra money. Like I was just spreading myself so thin. And then finding that release was the only thing I could do was like go out and like drink with my girlfriends and like do that. And my husband was like, okay, I feel like you're just like not taking care of yourself. You're like waking up, feeling like shit, going. And like it became like a hamster wheel. And I felt like it was affecting us. I felt like it was affecting our relationship. And honestly, I feel like Magic Mike Live has like saved my life because we moved out to Vegas and I had to learn, like I had to be disciplined. I've had to change how I like live my life completely.
Oh, you can lose yourself quick.
Yeah.
Fast.
We live in Vegas.
Yeah. Well, not to mention you're in one of the biggest shows in Vegas, which also gives you all the added perks and benefits in the city.
Yeah.
So there's also that part too, where it's hard to say no to the temptations.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I think I've been almost 8 years sober here now.
Really?
When I got sober out here, I still was working in the nightclub.
Oh, wow.
And I worked in the nightclub probably for another 1.5 years after sobriety until I started traveling the country speaking.
Really?
Yeah.
What nightclub?
So, well, I opened up Excess originally. So I got stories for days, woman.
Oh my God.
Just like I'm sure you
imagine.
do.
Yeah.
I still tell people that was probably, that phase of my life, that decade, because it was literally a decade from basically 20 to 30.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know how we can go party. It's one of those versions, and doing that every day, every weekend. But it was epic. I don't have any regrets about it. But I did have the problems with, the drugs, the gambling, the alcohol. And so I had to get sober because of that. But I finished off doing my own independent stuff and promoting at Foundation Room.
Oh, yeah.
I had a best buddy, great friend. He was my childhood friend and he was the manager over there. So I had a really great setup where I could go in and work for a few hours a night and I'd make great money. I'd make like $500 a night for a few hours of work. And then I would go home and just work on myself, write, read, study, like really recreate my life. And then I wrote the book. I started the podcast back in the day.
Yeah.
And so all that stuff started coming to life because of that situation. But
Oh, I love it.
but I remember those days like yesterday, you know.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And if I go out now, I'm like, that kind of looks fun, you know? But I'm like disciplined. I'm like, no, I'm good. This is my new life, you know?
Totally.
I'm happy here.
And we're getting older.
Yeah.
It's harder.
Yeah.
I feel it a lot different now.
We went out the other night, literally with the guys, like I was just talking about. I got home at like 2:30, and we did nothing except for go to Cosmo for a few hours, hang out, Resorts World, hang out for 30 minutes, and then finished off in the room at the Wynn with the boys just chatting. I got home at 2. I woke up the next morning. I was like, I feel like I went out and got drunk last night and took a bunch of drugs.
It's crazy.
I was like, that ain't good.
It's just a lot of energy.
It is.
I feel that like when we do our shows, I feel like a boy band member sometimes. I don't know how the guys feel on stage because they are like the boy band members. But I mean, the screams and the all of it, like, I think that's another thing I just have to like go home and like shut off, which is a lot.
So I have a very, I guess a curious question, as I guess all of my questions come from a level of curiosity, but with, so I think what you said a few minutes ago with acting, stand-up, MC, right? They're all on stage to some extent, but there's all a different, I would say, type of a performance, right? And so considering your versatility, did I say that right? Versatility?
Versatility. I think.
Damn. Thanks for the correction.
It's all good.
I'm good. I wanted that, by the way.
Yeah,
I wanted that.
good.
Versatility. That's what I was trying to say. Versatility.
Yes.
I got to say more fun now. How do you, I would say, blend the differences of the 3 different talents? First off, blend the 3 different talents and make yourself whole there, but also stand out in a world where, as you alluded to earlier, you know, being yourself, being authentic, stand out in a very competitive environment. You know, to win the MC job at Magic Mike's a big deal. To be on stage doing stand-up, obviously very competitive. To win the role for the audition, very competitive. So as you move through the mentality of that, so I guess the first question was what I said there. How do you kind of blend? And then the second part of it is stand out.
Yeah.
Right?
It's kind of crazy. So can I talk about influences?
Of course.
Because that's what helps me kind of like stay on track. I grew up watching like Robin Williams, loving his stand-up specials on HBO, loving his movies, loving how physical he was. And I also grew up loving like Paula Abdul. Jennifer Aniston was a big one. And seeing her like go from like TV to film, all of it. And then a huge influence I feel like right now is, and it's crazy because I feel like she's kind of the same in the sense of, I don't think she's the best singer ever. I don't think she's the best dancer ever, best actress ever, but she does all of them. Jennifer Lopez. Yeah. And her work ethic is unparalleled.
Right.
And so there's no other J-Lo. There's no other Jennifer Aniston. There's no other Robin Williams.
Great point.
You know? So I think all of them, they kind of weave in between different arenas and they still maintain themselves, like you know what you're getting, but I feel like they've broken barriers. And one of the biggest things with J-Lo, I feel like people are like, you can't do that. And she's like, yeah, I can.
Watch me.
Yeah. And it's so funny because before I go on stage, and again, I don't know if I'm answering the question. Before I go on stage, I used to play a little game with our stage manager, and he'd be like, who is she tonight? And I'd be like, she's Jennifer Lopez, Jennifer Coolidge, and Ben Vereen. And I try to like picture like that combination, or like Taylor Swift, Robin Williams, and like Britney Spears. Like I try to like mix every night. It's just a fun game for me to play, especially when like I might feel like I'm out of it for a second. I'll like grab onto something when I'm either on stage or like I'll like check myself and be like, channel Beyonce right now.
Yeah.
And that helps.
Yeah.
And so I feel like for me, just pulling from all those different influences and knowing that like they all stayed true to themselves and they were able to pivot. I mean, right now, and I can't really like talk about it, but there's something I have been working on for 2 years that's for like a streaming service TV. That because my number one dream has always been to be Rachel Green on Friends.
Okay.
That was always the goal. And or to do something like that. And so right now that hasn't come along. So I've been working on something to make it come along. You know, that's
Take
kind
control.
of like my life story that'll bring in stand up, but it'll bring in my passion for acting. I mean, I was the lead in a movie called A Wise Guy Christmas, and like that was the most fun. We shot that. I think it was right before I got married, so 2 years ago. But like that's my number one. Like I just love acting. Like that is always number one. But all this other stuff comes into it. You know,
Very neat.
So I think it's okay to pivot and like kind of weave all these things together, which is exactly what Magic Mike Live is. Like, I don't think I could do this job without having done stand-up. I don't think I could have done this job without my love for dance and movement. I couldn't have done this job without the years of bartending and being a server and working as a PA and doing all that, because you know what? I pray every night with our cleaning crew. And I appreciate those people, and I appreciate the people running the lights and running the sound and the servers and the bartenders. Like I know, because I've been every single one of you, I know I can't do my job to my fullest without every goddamn person in that room. So I feel like being able to pivot between all these arenas and different roles is like what will make me successful and what will make me stand out in this career and in this journey and in life, you know?
By the way, let me give you some more credit for trying to, I would say, what's that? Slow pace your answer there and saying, I don't think I'm answering the question. I think that's what you said. Maybe a slight variation. You answered it incredibly well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because you brought in the influences and how they have different personalities, and you were drawing that to the answer, right? And then you shared some examples of that as far as how it relates to what you're doing. Golly, what a phenomenal answer, I think. Like really, really good answer. So
thank you.
Sometimes I laugh because I think people, without even paying notice to it, kind of chop their own feet out from under them, right? And so, in respect of just an awareness moment, you do a great job with all of you what you've said. So, in the spirit of not keeping you here all day on a Sunday, because you did say you like to talk, and by the way, I love having this conversation. I think that you would be able to bring the heat for hours upon hours with just such great insight because you're so dynamic. A couple things. One, I just want to say thank you, right? Like I've really, truly enjoyed the energy, the different perspectives and the ways that you see life, the stories, and the dynamicism of who you are, right? I can feel it. And I would really, I think we're going to have to jam in the future again and bring some more heat together, especially since we're in Vegas together, right? There's no reason we can't.
Yeah.
Let's set side by side in Vegas. But I'm going to ask you one more question. I do always like to throw the ball back into someone like you's court, though, and say, is there anything that's heavy on your heart or that you think of while we're doing this that if I didn't ask the question or if you didn't get a chance to go to that you want to share, that you think is important for people to know or to hear, and what you would like to, add to that in terms of context or anything?
I mean, I think you did a phenomenal job, and like we talked about so much stuff. I guess maybe one thing, I don't know why it keeps like glaring in my head, is like I used to have a podcast called What's Your Jersey? And it's like kind of a play on words because I'm from Jersey. And it was so basically, where are you from? How'd you get to where you are? And I feel like for me, like the hardest part about being in Vegas is like, oh my God, I'm going to cry. Not being like where my roots are and like family, like all of that. And I think sometimes we get caught up in like the social media of it all and like what's cool and like go, go, go. And like sticking to your roots and like where you're from. Like that's why I love like watching The Sopranos. They were my acting teachers in New York. Like stuff like that I forget sometimes. And I think really like cherishing who makes you you and taking that time for like your family and all that is so important.
Yeah. I feel the tears. So You make me think of something when you say that. Very well said. Very, very well said. Moving around, going into a different place, it kind of reminds you when you were a kid, you know, how you had to uproot yourself and go to the next place, and it was very awkward and weird. I don't think that ever really leaves us. But in the spirit of Hollywood, I remember watching a video, and I recorded it, where The Rock was talking about how when he first started in Hollywood, they all wanted him to conform to Hollywood.
Yeah.
And they all wanted him to do all these things that were outside of who The Rock really was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until The Rock decided, to hell with you. Like, you're going to conform to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to do it who I see myself as. And from what he said, that's when his career exploded.
Mm-hmm.
Because he stopped trying to be and do it for everybody else and just said, let me be myself. And so why I say that is because I feel like that's you in this city now, where Vegas is becoming a fantastic place for a lot of reasons.
Everyone's moving here.
Yeah, I've been here my whole life. Like I'm that guy. And by the way, we'll have to talk about this.
Us.
Yeah, I have a very sided opinion on this whole thing. I could have some fun with it after, but I want to finish my point about where I was going with that, because you just continue to be you, and everyone else will transform around that because you're being yourself, which is rare in essence of just life, right? So don't ever lose those roots. Don't ever take the Jersey gal out of Jersey, even though she's physically in Vegas. Like, keep being who you are, and the rest of the people around will conform to that, because then you'll start to gravitate to and attract to you the right ones, regardless of where you're at, right? So I just wanted to make sure that you were, thinking that in terms of being here in Vegas, and it's nice to have you in my city.
Oh, it's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good. Last thing is, what does always on the grow mean to you?
Oh, God. That perfection is not ever going to be attained, and that you constantly have to be evolving and constantly, I feel like, especially I'm like hitting a milestone like birthday this year, and it's like a scary number, I feel like, for women especially. And to know that like I'm so much cooler now than I was 10 years ago because of all the stuff that I've been through, all the lessons, all the risks I've taken, all the times that I've failed, and without like constantly growing, like I wouldn't be here. And I think to stay in one place and to not take those risks and to not lean into that fear, you're doing yourself a disservice. And that it's okay to leave things behind, that, sometimes people are supposed to be in your life for a minute, a decade, a lifetime. And we all are constantly growing. And also we all need to give each other grace because of that. And you never know what someone else is going through. They're growing on their journey. Yeah. And I just feel like it's exciting and really hard to also keep that in mind all the time and know that Practice makes not perfect. Progression.
By the way, how you open that up, what the perfection is, probably never going to happen. I haven't heard that before. So that is a fantastic way of seeing it. I got giddy when I heard that. So, very well said. Very well said. Okay, so let me finish it off. Oh, by the way, where can everybody find you socially, website-wise? Obviously at Magic Mike Vegas, baby. But where are all those goods at? On
Instagram, Facebook, it's just Jaclyn Marfuggi. On TikTok, which I'm starting to try to be better at because it's fun, at the Jaclyn Marfuggi. I'm also co-hosting the Yo Show with Michael Yo, so you can find that on Spotify, iTunes. I'm going to try to relaunch Where Should We Eat podcast, but it's taken me a while. I'm a little busy.
I'll make sure I nudge you.
Thank you.
I got your back.
Yeah.
A little accountability.
Thank you. I need that.
Yeah.
And then just at Magic Mike Live, we have shows Wednesdays through Sundays. We've added shows. We do 11 shows a week. So yeah, and I'm still doing stand-up. I'm trying to get up more in Vegas. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes because I have like 1-2 nights off.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I'll hopefully be adding more shows because I miss it. I just did the Hollywood Improv and oh my God, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I love doing it. So reach out and let me know where you want to see me.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And, certainly grateful for you for joining us.
Thank you.
And I'll say, as I was just alluding to a few minutes ago, with the people moving to Vegas as a funny, this is my attempt at comedy, but it's probably not going to be very funny at all. I get very protective over my city. And so when everybody started moving here because of COVID and everything, it was like this huge tsunami of new people.
Ugh.
And Vegas used to be really awesome and like very poised and quiet, and like you could get around town in like a heartbeat because there was no traffic, and it was just it was the most secretive hidden gem in the world. Everybody only knew it for the Strip, but they didn't really know what happened kind of off the Strip.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody moved out here and started saying that Vegas is their place and all this. And so the other day we're looking at a wedding venue, and a lady's talking about how she was here for some years. And right before that, my fiance and I were talking about, if you've been in Vegas for a few years, you're not a native. And I got pissed. I was like, you're not a native. And I said, I've been here my whole life. I've earned a right to that native name. So I was just getting all fired up, and I was joking, but I was like, you can't say you're a native in Vegas unless you've been born and raised here. And I was like standing my ground pillar-wise. Anyway, that's my comedy, ladies and gentlemen. That's whatever it was, story, comedy, but that's how I'm wrapping up this show. Jaclyn, thank you, like truly from the bottom of my heart for taking the time today and in your busy schedule and coming down and jamming with the Always on the Grow flow. And it's been great. Thank you.
Well, grazie mille for having me.
I don't know the Italian, but I just say okay. Make the fun of ciao ciao.